I'm here with Charles Jameson, fellow astrologer. Charles, you could say we've been students of astrology together.
For many years, indeed.
And how did you get into astrology first?
Well, many years ago in the early 90s, I belonged to a church, and one of the people in the church we all knew was an astrologer, and so a bunch of us pestered her continually to teach us, and eventually said, all right, let's have a class on a Saturday afternoon. And so for 5 or 6 years of Saturday afternoons, we all learned astrology together. And in the late 90s, I did the FAA exams and passed that, an astrology exam, yeah.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it, with astrology? I got into it because someone gave me a reading.
Right.
And I thought, how is this possible?
Yes.
How could somebody know so much about me?
Absolutely.
And then when you start to learn about the planets and the signs,
yeah,
you kind of then think, well, I wonder what everybody else's is like.
Exactly, and I found it really useful for myself to understand my family, for instance. My brother had a certain astrological aspect that kind of explained a lot about why he is the way he is.
Yeah,
you know.
and I think that's the starting point, isn't it, really? Astrology can give you such great insight to yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's where you can then move on to other people, your family, your friends, partners, all kinds of things. And
yeah, even knowing the basics, just the houses, the aspects and the signs, really gives you a really good grounding, good starting point to understanding other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really useful factor in learning astrology.
I think that when I started learning it, and I obviously, like a lot of people, thought that astrology was what you read in the newspapers, it was your sun sign columns. And then I couldn't believe that you actually, each of the planets meant something different, and your planets can be in different signs, so that, you know, it's...
I think most people have an understanding that, you know, if a Gemini is this and a Leo is that, but that's the sun sign column, and I think that this, as you and I know, that's the actual tip of the iceberg.
Oh, absolutely.
So what's your moon sign, for instance, what's your Mercury sign or your Venus sign? Once you put all those together, it tells a very interesting story.
And your rising sign, of course.
And your rising sign or ascendant,
that
sort of demonstrates to people how you come across, which may be actually different to your sun sign. I think that was a bit of a revelation as well.
Yeah, I know, because you do get a lot of people who say, oh, I'm a Virgo, but I'm not like other Virgos.
No.
And you go, well, you probably are, but there's obviously some other factors there that you're not relating to that depiction of a Virgo.
Oh yes, I remember someone I used to work with, she came across as a very outgoing and ebullient, happy-go-lucky sort of person, and she said, oh, do my astrology chart. And I did it for her, and she had a Pisces moon, so very sensitive. And I went back to her and she said to me, what have you learned about me? And I said, you're actually much more sensitive than you let on. She says, okay, that's enough. So she had a sort of a Leo-ish quality, a very outgoing rising sign.
Yes.
But behind the scenes, she was quite different.
Yeah, much more, as Pisces is much shyer.
Yes, but she's learnt to project a certain view of herself, and so that's the side of astrology I really like, is like getting to a bit more of the essence of someone, understanding people better.
So it's great to go through the other planets as well, because as we said, the sun is really like your operating system. It's kind of who you are. Are you a PC or a Mac?
Yes. Okay. Yep. That's a good way of putting it. And then the other planets, people forget that they know their sun sign, that is the sign that their sun is in on the day they're born, but what sign was their moon in, and their Venus and their Mars, and what sign was the rising sign? That is the sign that was on the horizon at the moment of birth.
Yeah.
Because what your rising sign is will often show how you come across to other people.
That's right.
If your rising sign
is... It can be your looks, it can be your personality, all kinds of things.
And I was looking at Donald Trump's chart yesterday, and he's got a Leo rising sign. If you know what Leo is all about, it's very dramatic,
flamboyant,
And
theatrical.
so, yeah, absolutely. So he's got a rising sign of Leo, and that's how he comes across. The moon sign will be interesting about your feelings.
Yeah.
And for instance, a Pisces moon person would be much more sensitive than someone with a Leo moon or someone with an Earth moon.
Exactly.
So
or an Aquarian moon, for example,
absolutely,
which is much more detached. Yeah.
And I've got a Sagittarian moon, so I like adventure and doing those Sagittarian kind of things and ideas. Yeah. And so is my wife, funnily enough.
But then that's the next step, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You then start to say, well, if your wife's got a Sagittarian moon
Yes.
and you do,
Yes.
then you can sit in those little Sagittarian moons together and enjoy travel and sport and
Absolutely.
excitement and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely, we talk the same language when we're
Yeah.
talking about things related to the moon, like feelings, and it doesn't surprise her when I say certain things
Yeah.
that are related to my moon sign. My wife, for example, has a different sun sign to me. She's a Piscean and I'm a Gemini. So
It's a square aspect.
they were
so
calling
that's,
it. So that's a little bit of
little
different,
bit
a
of
little
conflict.
challenge, a little bit of conflict. So sometimes we disagree about things, and that's okay. Keeps things interesting.
yeah, exactly.
So understanding other people is really helped by knowing their astrology. It doesn't explain everything, it doesn't define them, it just informs you and gives you a better idea of where someone's coming from. As I mentioned before, my brother, for instance, he's got a Mars and Pluto aspect in his chart, that really
Yeah.
explains the strong energy and drive that he had from birth, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing. It's not about the stars are controlling us.
No.
It's about understanding what the energies are,
Yes.
so that you can use that a little bit like if you had some sort of psychological insight into somebody.
Absolutely.
That you then understand, oh, that's how they learn things, that's how they hear things or understand things.
Absolutely.
And that's what can be really, really interesting.
Absolutely, and I learned, particularly with my brother, for instance, he likes hearing things in bullet point format.
Yeah.
So we talk in bullet points with him, and he gets it. You know, he doesn't
Yeah.
want a long conversation, he just wants it short and sharp and sweet, and that's how we do it.
Exactly.
So absolutely, astrology can help inform those kind of conversations and how to approach another person. What's the best way to interact with them?
Now you've got a workshop coming up as well.
That's right, the 18th of July, it's in Elstonwick, and it's at a crystal shop there. And it'll be a one-day workshop just covering some of these basics like houses, signs, aspects, just so people who have no previous experience
Yeah,
with
an
astrology
introduction,
can
yeah.
just get their head around the basics about, well, okay, I like sun sign astrology, but what's the next step? So
Yeah.
this one-day workshop is really the next step for people who want to know more.
And what kind of things will you be covering?
As I said, the foundation is just the signs, the planets, the houses and the aspects between the planets.
Yeah.
Most astrologers would agree that those four things
Oh,
are
absolutely.
pretty much the fundamentals that you need to get your head around to start off with.
Yeah.
And it'll be a very informal, friendly workshop, and I'll be using lots of examples of public figures and celebrities and what their astrology chart reveals.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Charles.
No worries.
If you want more details about Charles's workshop, go to our website and follow the links.